Chips and salsa.
Yeah, but I don't think there is.
Okay, Jeff has told me that it is past 6:30. So we will stop our socializing and call business to order. This is the committee of the whole meeting of February 5th, 2024 for the Board of the Park Commissioners of the Lake Bluff Park District here in Lake County, Illinois. The time is 6:33, it looks like. And Marcia, who is off somewhere back over there in Zoom, if you could call roll, please.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Here.
Commissioner Lane,
Here.
Commissioner Raymore,
Here.
Commissioner Reeder,
Here.
Commissioner Walsh. No Walsh. Commissioner Weber, President Beeler.
Yes. Next is the approval of the agenda. I'll ask first, would anyone mind if we moved Lobola first in line?
That's
Okay,
fine.
so with that change to our new business with having the Lobola 2023 review first, may I ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Second. And roll call, please.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Lane,
Yes.
Commissioner Raymore,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeder,
Yes.
President Beeler.
Yes. Next is our statement of visitors. This gives the opportunity for anybody who is present with us tonight and anyone who is present as well on Zoom via remote to address the board for a period of up to 3 minutes. Any matter that is tangent part of the park district, not considered on the agenda tonight, is open for any sort of statement from whoever may be attending. The folks who are here tonight are going to be presenting. So is there anybody, Jeff, who's present on Zoom who'd like to address the board?
There are no guests on Zoom.
Thank you. On to our verbal communications, which would be my board president report, which actually is going to be part of what we're going to talk about with our new business. So going on to that, we have first our two folks from Lobola, Ben Miller and Michelle Rashke. Rashke, okay. And let me start this way. I think plants fear me because they come to my house to die. So I immediately stand in awe of people who have that kind of ability to nurture nature. Second, I have to say, and I know that all of us here on the board have had that opportunity, but if you can do it, go stand in the ravine, take a look at what has happened with the transformation of the land on 176. It's amazing to see what Lobola has been able to do to help not just the park district, but the entire village of Lake Bluff. I have to commend them because they have an army of volunteers. There are always young people who volunteer. There are those stalwart folks within the community who are out there all the time. It's incredible the people that are dedicated to Lobola and dedicated to better and transform our community. And then finally, you have vision. I mean, we always talk on the park board about leaving the park district in a better place, about things that we do that we leave as a legacy, and you folks plant things and put things into place that you know you're probably not going to enjoy in a lifetime, but you know that other people will in the future. So with that, welcome tonight and look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Please let me know if I'm not being picked up by the mic. Got a little bit of a voice setting today. Thank you for the kind words, very much appreciated. Again, I know the president of Lake Bluff, Michelle Bradshake, Natural Areas Coordinator, Godsend. Bless you, thank you. Always my number two, and I very much appreciate it. Perfect. And thank you, Sue, 2.5. I'm sorry.
No, she's two.
I've got a presentation. I will try to make this as quick as possible, and then you guys have to complete tonight. So with that, I'll be next item is. As we do, I wanted to give just a brief synopsis, just Lobola by the numbers when it comes to park district properties this year. With a significant investment in Skokie Reserve, which is actually village property, we spent a lot more of our time there this year. We do anticipate a lot more time spent at the guest rooms coming up in 2024, so stay tuned for that. As it is, this is our breakdown of the three properties, we spent time at in 2023. You can see in total just about 650 hours between our volunteer labor and our part-time employees, Michelle, Lana Fidala, and Natalie Meadows. Terrible names. This includes Lakewood medical volunteers, Northwood Gives Back from middle school from Highland Park, as well as Interact, a group of high school students from Highland Park as well. So we've had quite the army from breadth of students, and of course, our local volunteers here in Lakewood as well. The ravine, there's on. And Youthville, oh, so we had a group from Waukegan. Youthville, which was part of the Youth Conservation Corps, who was also out and assisting the rebuild of the Against Weapons platform this year. So thank you to them. So thank you, Michelle. The Ravine Preserve, not a ton of work with, next slide, please. For that. What we had hoped to achieve was to continue our goal of following Cliff Miller, thank you. Cliff Miller's master plan for restoration of the ravine, removal of invasive species, and reintroduction of native oaks, native plant communities, and shoring up the vegetative community to kind of bring an end to some of the erosion problems we're seeing out there. That kind of put on pause, so are we. We did miss out on a tree inventory outreach and education grant this year. We needed a letter of support that unfortunately didn't come through in a timely fashion, so that will have to stay for next year. I do believe it opens up again in 24, so that is a possibility. As of right now, our management is simply just to monitor the site, continue any buffer and removal that we may see pop up. That fortunately is not really a problem in 23. We will continue monitoring in 24. Next slide, please. Again, for 2024, we want to see that updated ravine study to come from Cliff Miller. I know this is work in progress. So with that, we should be able to reapproach the community with a plan and a contemporary plan, even if it is just stating that the 95 plan control the Norway maples, reduce invasive species, promote native species. If it's just restating that, well, this community wants to see that that is still the case. And from our understanding conversations with Cliff, that is the case. They're the bigger Norway maples now and not babies like they were in 95. Education and outreach wise, continuing to promote that we are for trees, native species that are not going to cause erosion issues in the future in the ravine environment, even in close proximity to residences, and help curtail things like yard waste dumping and things like that that are working against our efforts to shore up ravine vegetation and curtail the growth of vegetation on those slopes. And certainly something we want to look forward in 24 is the walking paths out there are treacherous at times. So figuring out a way to make those more accessible, more safe to the public, so it's not as much of a liability, kind of extends outside of the wellness purview, but certainly I know we're an integral part of the process, so I want to really work that back. Next slide, please. Gas wetlands, a lot of time spent with gas wetlands. You might know this is at Wimbledon Court, and we were out with us last fall. Jennifer, you've been out with us, I believe, even at the boardwalk christening of the sorts. Yeah, it's a wonderful little preserve, the oldest first preserve. Next slide, please. 23, we are still overseeing the Common Green Regions grant out there, as well as the Clean Energy grants. With that, we have integrated waste management out there, helping to control crab monkeys, which is a tall invasive grass that's kind of basically curtailed any open water that is, closed up some of the open water that we have out there, discourages things like native waterfowl, native species of any mammals or anything like that we normally see out there. And so we want to open that up again, make it more visible, make it a more aesthetically pleasing site and more accessible to the public. Thank you to the Lake Forest Garden Club. They kindly awarded us with the grant to rebuild that. And after a little bit of back and forth between the village, Stormwater Management Commission, and we had to go to the Army Corps of Engineers We finally have our approvals to move forward, and we anticipate that happening in March of 2024, so yay. So excited, and after 6 months, very long time coming. Next slide, please. A reminder, this is where the nexus of this grant comes from, is the boardwalk out there. You can kind of see it's a little bit of a tripping hazard. We are seeing more stormwater coming into this wetlands from the adjacent community, whether that be climate change, development out there. I'm not going to surmise what this is, but we are dealing with more stormwater and it's going to places it was before. So we need to build a law so that we can accommodate that stormwater. And part of that is getting rid of invasive species that are holding water in places it shouldn't. And a whole bunch of. Next slide, please. So in 23, we had plenty of volunteers and all the interns out there, both planting, removing invasive species, and caring for those native species that we did plant. Mother Nature did not grace us with a ton of rainwater this year, so many, many hours watering, to say the least. With buckets. Buckets. We don't have spigots out there, so everything has to be hauled by hand. And the water isn't accessible to us, so we can't use it from on site either. So thank you, Michelle, and to all of our volunteers that were out there and our interns who came to involved. So next slide, please. This is courtesy of Youth Conservation Corps. We have for those of you that know the site, we have an overlook platform in the center that overlooks supposed to be open water. As you can tell, not quite so open. But they help us rebuild the railing out there, making it a little more safe for the public to access. And that in combination with the Boy Scouts. Is that next? Yeah. Next. Wayne, thank you.
Waymeyer.
Waymeyer. There we go.
Coordinator.
There we go. You can see the addition of the boardwalk and Macon family. We now have a safe, reversible boardwalk to get out to this overlook platform that does not flood as bad as it used to, which is a fantastic condition. Next slide, please. This is a view from last year. You can see all of this tall grass in the foreground is cattail and phragmites. Our end goal is to hopefully reduce that population down to where you actually have open water in close proximity to this platform, as it was not even 5 years ago. So this is it's a new problem and finally getting on top of this. Next slide, please. This was fun. So about 2 weeks ago, when we were in the middle of that polar vortex, we took the opportunity to go out there while it was frozen over and actually burn down some of that cattail, completely inaccessible in the growing season. So we decided to experiment, took a small crew out there, and it was mixed results. Like cutting it down, burning it to try and get rid of some of the duff. Otherwise, we have to rely on it just biodegrading as nature intends, and that's not a very fast process. So we gave it a shot, mixed results, but it certainly was fun. Next slide. This was our fall celebration. We had hoped it would be for the commencement of the boardwalk rebuilding process. That was not meant to be. Army Corps takes a long time to get. So instead, it was just a celebration of, fall, October, as it were. I don't know. Probably at least 60 or 80, despite being a very rainy day. I am so appreciative. Everyone was brave. It was sunny by that point, but it was wet today. So we had families out there. We had a little scavenger hunt. Thank you to Sue for putting that together. A little turtle hunt, if I remember correctly. We had games of bags and things like that. So it was a lovely little event, and we got some families who have never been to the wetlands before out, actually exploring, looking for little stuffed animals and taking photos with them. It was adorable and cute. Next slide.
And Sandy Hart came, or Sandy Ragsdale came and spoke,
Yes.
and she is Carolyn Getz's daughter. So she kind of gave us a history of how the Get started. It was very nice.
And actually, it's funny, we had a couple wildlife enthusiasts that found some frogs that were drifting away from the wetlands, so they started buckling them back, so it was a very cute moment. Yeah, next slide. And there you go, Sandy Ragsdale and family, kind of joining us to give a little speech about what the guest wetlands meant to her and what it meant to her mom. So thank you to them. They've been enduring light this whole process and they've been very supportive of the whole thing. Next slide. And of course, the Higgins family for hosting us. This the guest wetlands is not very amenable to a party of that size, so they were kind enough to lend us their yard. Thank you to them. 2024, we do want to get the boardwalk loan started in March of 24. We do want to continue to investigate stormwater management issues over there. There's a lot of water that's retained in that wetland, and it doesn't seem to go anywhere, even though we know that it is supposed to pipe under the railroad tracks. We'll continue harping on the village and their engineering division to take a look into that. So far, not a whole lot of work being done, so. Other than that, maintaining the wood chip trails out there, and I'm sure we'll end up tagging Ben and company to assist us when we need. Next slide. Thanks to our Lake Forest High School students as well out there, venturing out into the mock planting, bull rush. God knows what else. Next slide. And thank you to the Park District staff. They assist us for our part of the grant was removal of dead trees. So that certainly was a fantastic contribution. So thank you guys. Belforet Preserve is at the north end of the Lake Bluff Golf Course, right off of Belforet Drive. Very small preserve, just a little pedestrian entrance. But it's a wonderful little gem up there. Next slide, please. Over 2023 trail maintenance, some prescribed, no prescribed burns. We did. Yes, that's right. Right at the beginning of January 23. Prescribed burns, brush pile burns, a lot of buckthorn out there that we want to get rid of. Some dead ash back there. And dead oaks actually as well. Next slide. For 2024, I'm going to technically, because I don't know any details. We do have a line on a $2,500 grant for the birdscape purpose of birdscaping, removal of invasive species and replacement with native shrubs that are going to be conducive to wildlife habitat, foraging, so on and so forth. For that, and just this afternoon, we sent along a draft MOU from the Lake County Audubon Society between. Is it all three agencies, the Park District, Lobola, and Lake County Audubon? Or is it just the two?
As you, and or.
Okay, landowner and Lake County Audubon, that they're supportive of this, especially since we're a third party in this whole process. Our plan is as follows: winter and summer, winter through summer removal of buckthorn invasive species along the east end, and we'll have a map in a second. Fall, planting of new shrubs and trees, along with outreach. We want to reach out to the community, get their input, let them know this is happening, be as transparent as possible so that they know that this isn't simply a matter of reducing screening, but that long-term we in fact want to increase screening with a positive contribution to the neighborhood. In addition, we will have deer fencing. We do find that, especially on projects like 176, where we do have a lot of deer predation, it really does help us control that deer browsing, and it just protects our investment. And then prescribed burn in the spring. We'll continue doing that. Next slide, please. Here's kind of our roadmap out here. So we've got basically 3 houses on the east end of the preserve. A band-aid of buckthorn between the preserve and each of these guys. The proposal is to eliminate that and replace it almost immediately. By the way, I'll open up to any questions. Please just interrupt.
I would just say, as we already talked about, just reach out to those neighbors to let them know that it's still going to change the look a little bit for them, to remove that buckthorn, and it's going to take a while for the new, better native that vegetation to come in and fill in. It's just going to look different for a little while, so we just want to make sure we're reaching out to them and making sure they're on board.
Yeah, it's like any construction. It's a lot, it's got to look up there before it gets back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, out there, it's all preserved. So it's not like we're going to be seeing a building or anything like that. So that's fortunate. And actually, this, the house to the south, we've worked with them for a couple of years now and kind of set the wheels in motion. And this is kind of what we're aiming to down the line relatively to the winter.
Yeah, I think they'd be very open to it,
I think so.
especially with this Audubon,
Right.
In the middle house, I think. We were clearing back there last winter. We were clearing back there last winter, and they actually had their property line surveyed then, because they wanted to make sure we went all the way up. So the middle guy is not gonna be.
yes, on board. Okay,
Yeah, in
good.
fact, they may be not happy if we put plans back.
I think we'll have to reach out to the village for a permit on the fence when it's time for that deer fence, probably.
Temporary difference.
And then all of them different. They'll never be.
Nothing permanent. plastic, snow.
We did it on the Skokie,
Yeah.
so
Oh, okay.
they.
From 4 acres, that's the scope, so.
Yeah, we need it for temporary.
Next slide. That's it.
I have a question. Mine.
Yes.
The changes that will go on with Bluff Parade, is that change? I like the designation of that kind of land in any way because a lot of them, no, it's just automatic.
Yes, however, I think, we've been more involved with Audubon this year in a couple ways. There was a bluebird monitor at Skokie this year. That reports to the Lake County Audubon, this grant's awesome. When it came to get the educational signs for vets, I reached out to them and 2 women were amazing on helping me organize this, the educational sign for the birds. By the way, hit go ahead on that, so those things should be done pretty quick here.
It'll be bird identification signs, migratory waterfowl, as well as.
Warblers, that's what I learned, warblers, that's big migrators, so that's what the Audubon ladies taught me, so that was really interesting. There's also, kind of wetlands and then like a baby sign.
And those are signs for the gets.
For the,
Yeah.
for the cats.
Yeah.
But I was saying, what I'm saying, I guess, in front of my long battle here was that we've started working with the Audubon Society a little bit more, and I'm really hoping to, from here, figure out how we attract and promote our sites as birding opportunities. So GETS is gonna be a big one, I think. And prairie, it's part of the grant with them is it's public, it's open to the public, it's accessible. But yeah, I'm not sure how they promote sites for other people to come and bird, but that's.
One of the things along the Robert McCrory bike path, I was biking more seriously, they would put up signs about migratory birds and especially not to disturb them at certain times of the year. So, I mean, if we're attracting birds there, that would be interesting to have that kind of identification so people know now's a good time, that's not a good time. This is, you know, they're nesting with it or doing whatever.
Mission 1 final was there.
Right? Yeah, but it was there. Yeah.
That's what I want to do. Yeah, I mean, of course.
Yeah. Cool, okay.
And that's about it. Next slide, and it's just a reminder, if anyone's interested. Next slide. Or not. Whatever. If you're volunteering, most every weekend, we're out at one of the preserves, Skokie for the foreseeable future. But also weekdays, we do have weekday work days for those that are interested. And we do have what we're calling Big Bird 2 coming up. Basically a large bonfire and stewardship work day. So we had one last year and it attracted a great crowd. We were very happy with it. We had hot dogs and music, and, you know, a really big fire. So it's a good time. And that's about it. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Just 2 things. I just want to say, thank you to staff for putting the volunteer on the website from the last year, that we mentioned it. And so hopefully you've gotten some traffic from that. So thanks, kudos to the staff putting it on there.
Yes.
And then is there any way you can forward that to the commissioners? Like, I didn't see it in my second. Okay.
The presentation?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
And John, you know, Cliff had done the update on the management plan, last year. I don't think that hasn't been presented to the board yet. Is there a plan? I don't think so, right?
I think we were waiting for it to become more crystallized in written form.
Okay,
Yeah.
from Cliff?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're still waiting on Cliff? Okay, okay, just curious. I know when we talked to him, Michelle and I walked the ravine with him in the fall. And he basically said it would done, the only thing he had left to do was to come back when we have a resident meeting. So maybe we'll try to reach out to him and get that clarified with John.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more question. So is there any way you can just pass along the Audubon contact, just to see if they work with golf courses of putting some things on there with the Audubon?
Sure.
Thank
There's
you.
certainly a Audubon certification for all persons.
Mhm.
That is definitely something we could pursue.
Yeah, so if you can share that, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Yes,
You have my email.
I do. May not be the same person as with this grant, but I know her from, she's She's the project manager for the drainage district. And anyway, my point is, I'll get you the I don't know what's the name, I couldn't do that, but she's the right, somebody else who does that, yes.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, Theo, for your partnership.
All right, next we have our OSLED Grant Award status, and I will say, Sue Raymore was very kind and said, thank you for your leadership, but I really think this was an amazing collaborative effort because staff with, really making sure that we had everything, because there was a lot of documents to fill out, a lot of paperwork that needed to be done. The community that came out that night and talked about things that they liked about our pool, whether it was the music's too loud or the music's too soft, but really a lot of valuable input as to what kind of asset this is to Upland, because they really shepherded us through to be able to get there, to Dr. Reinhardt for his gentle words to try to make sure that this was front and center, to Senator Morrison and to everybody who participated. This is really a very, very good thing. And for Emily as well, for reaching out and saying to Jeff Spillman, how's our engagement on social media? Because it's nice to be liked in many different ways, including the number of people who even said, good job, or said something on Facebook or Instagram and everything else. It's good to know that people are engaged in that way as well. So with that, let me just turn this over briefly to Emily too, because of running the Facilities and Program Committee. Just again, a reminder of where this came from and why we have this grant in place.
So I guess I like to talk about the highlights, and the highlight was, focusing on community need and fiscal responsibility, right? And that's how we made the decision as the Facilities and Programs Committee, choosing to do the scaled back renovation based on the Finance Committee's recommendation. So we presented that to the board, the recommendation to do the scaled back renovation, which was three options were presented to us, which was basically a whole new pool. Then there was the second one, which was doing a huge renovation, but we would still have the shell of the pool. And then the scaled back would be the shell with the critical renovation parts. So with our finances and that led us to decide to do the scaled back renovation. So I'm really excited that we got the OSLED grant. I'm thrilled. That was one of the things definitely that we advocated for, and we really focused on of making sure that we can get other outside funding. So now we're going to move forward with working with the staff and the Finance Committee, the Facilities and Programs to move forward and create the scope and the timeline for the scaled back renovation. So we're very excited. I'm very excited. I think this is a great thing for our community. It's going to prolong the pool. And that was our goal, is to extend the life of that pool. And we're going to be able to do that now. Any questions?
Anything else to me?
Or anything you want to add?
No, I
guess
just say
right there.
we're meeting on February 12th,
Oh, yes.
right,
yeah.
at 6:30.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to come to that meeting,
That one's not going to be the one with the pool. So for the next Facilities and Programs Committee.
the one after that.
Yes.
Okay.
Which will be like the next week. No, I'm just kidding.
It's all right.
Just kidding.
Wait.
Yes.
We're actually hoping to do a combined meeting with Finance and the Facilities and Programs Committee to just work it together so we can just start tackling that with staff.
Yeah.
Because it takes a team, takes a village.
Anything?
Yeah, I would just say from staff, I mean, with this very exciting time for Bluff, for the Park District, this is a large grant, $600,000 matching grant through IDNR, this outside grant. And I think as Emily had pointed out to me, it might be the largest grant that Park District received. It was awarded this back in, I think, 2014, and did not. That's the year the new governor came in, froze the funds, and those communities did not receive, and still have not received those grants. And so while the Park District was awarded, it didn't actually receive the money. So this might be the largest one that the Park District receive. I think it's a big win. It really, you know, the park, if you look at some of the comments on Facebook and just our post, the community pool is really loved by the community. And so they seem to be a lot of positive comments. You know, we do have to just kind of level set expectations as far as the renovations, really renovation and repair, the emphasis on repair. You know, we're fixing a lot of mechanicals and, you know, doing work that's going to extend the life of the pool. You won't walk in and say, whoa, brand new pool. You know, we're not doing the bigger renovation, but we're fixing those critical components to extend the life. This is, you know, a really important amenity for this community, for the Park District to be able to offer, for a community that's located on Lake Michigan. It's, you know, we feel it's just critical that, you know, we're able to offer these swim lessons through our day camp and to the public to make sure that kids can swim. And so that's very important. It is it's a 2-year grant cycle. If you don't take the money up front, you have the option to take 50% of the money up front before you start a project. But if you do that, then you have to stay within the 2-year timeline. If you don't take the money up front, then you are able to apply for a 1-year extension, making a 3-year grant cycle project if needed for the timing. And so those are just some different things that we can work out between the facility committee, the finance committee and staff, and just making sure we have a really good plan and timeline going forward. Again, as you mentioned, I'd like to thank Dr. Reiner. That's something new that we've done, that Park District hasn't done in the past. We have a legislative advocate that's helping in Springfield to bring attention to these grant application projects and making sure that we're getting our state reps and our senators to help push for those. Senator Morrison was very happy to call and announce the great news, and so that's I think another feather in her cap as well. She seems to have a soft spot for Lake Bluff and really enjoys being able to help out the Park District and the community. And I just wanted to thank the board for their support and their vision in moving forward and in being able to apply for this grant and do it for this year. I think we've just finished up you know, about a $77,000 comment grant for our lighting, and now we're, you know, we have a much larger $600,000 grant from IDNR. So we'll keep going and see what else is out there, but yeah, it's starting off to a very good year, and I think this is going to be an exciting time for the Park District.
Good.
If I can just add something on the finances, what I've been trying to do for many months, and I think we're getting close, I think, is to try to go through the numbers, go through the budget numbers for the next 10 years and come up with a number, how much money Park District is going to have outside of our planned capital spending, outside of our budgeted capital spending, and outside of the 25% fund balance that we want to hold in the general fund and the rec fund. And when we have the number that we can generate internally and then add to that what we would have the potential to borrow under the levy program, then I think we have to put that together with the facilities programs committee planning, and you know, obviously the board has to then kind of look at the whole thing to see what exactly we want to spend as a board on the pool. And we may find that we have a little bit more money and we can do a little bit more work than what we had planned. There's plenty to do. I don't think we lack places to spend the money. But as Emily said, I think the goal and what the board voted on some months ago is we want to keep the pool going for another 10 years. And then beyond that, and you know, above those things, we can look at the amount of money we have and say, fine, we can allocate this much money to the pool. And then we can also look at other projects such as the beach. and say, fine, now we can then look at the beach and we've got some money for that and make decisions on that. So, that really goes hand in hand, obviously, with the work that we want to do and that we have to do. So hopefully we have these numbers.
Meeting with Rich tomorrow.
Sometime when I'm still committed. And we can actually work on it. But that's the plan on the finance.
That's terrific. I love when people say we have a bomb-proof pool. That was how it was made, you know, with concrete 51 years ago. And I think the education for me was hearing Ray Lee speak about just the fact that it's made out of concrete. And if you've been a Chicagoan for any period of time, you see what it does to roads with winters and freezing and thawing and everything else. So it's held out. It's been a terrific asset and a memory builder for so many people in this community. I'm glad that we're able to give it more breath, give it more life. But we know it's not going to last forever.
I think having the money to spend that wasn't asked of the taxpayers will make it easier in the future when they do have to talk about a new pool.
Yeah.
So that to me is a huge thing.
Oh, I think so. I think
If we got another referendum to fix the pool and then we asked another referendum to build the one, 5 years later. So this is wonderful.
in a specific, year, 18 months of a referendum for the high school and stormwater assessment, I think we can't twist any of these arms anymore. People give very generously in this community, which is terrific, but asking them for a referendum would have been painful. So.
I think I would also like to add that over the last almost 5 years now, and I think we have to pat ourselves on the back as a board, and I think we have to pat staff on the back for doing a really good job in getting the finances of the park district turned around to the point where we wouldn't need a referendum to repair the pool. We wouldn't have needed to go to the public to do these needed repairs for the pool. It's certainly great to have the grant. I mean, that helps, helps $600,000, which is terrific. But the fact is, the finances of the park district are in a lot better shape today than they were in 2019. And so that makes a big difference when we can look and not say, where can we scrape together $100,000 to do this, but rather, all right, do we want to spend $1 million of ours or $2 million of ours or $3 million of ours? And I don't want to name specific numbers because until we see it on paper, we won't know what those exact numbers are. But it's been a big difference over the last several years. And like I say, staff has really done a good job in keeping things going great, but under control, so that we're in this position.
Cool. Okay, thank you all very much for that. Last item on our committee of the whole agenda is the North Shore Water Reclamation District Basin Project. And I guess I will turn first to you, John, to see if anything happened today, that we got any new information.
We did. Yeah.
Yay, okay.
And it's pretty good news, potentially. So, I sent you an email as soon as I got off the phone, but I know that it's busy and it's the day of a meeting and you have an actual job. You can't spend all of your time here at the Park District.
But I want to.
I had sent out a pretty pointed email last week, just letting them know that we were disappointed with, not hearing about the timing and still in worrying about this summer, and what sort of, are we gonna be able to open the South Beach area? are we gonna be able to return the rentals and the revenue for that, the programming, for the camp, which is providing jobs for young people that won't get those jobs if we can't, offer that program this year. And then it's a lot of revenue, over $30,000 revenue between, the camp and the South Shelter rental that, goes away once again. So, I called the, operating engineer, Steve Otter, today, who back to me today. I had pointed out that, expect to be able to report back to the board some sort of news on where we're headed, and what the timing is looking like. So he was working on that today. What the North Shore Water Reclamation District is looking at is doing a construction pause. So they would pause from Memorial Day until Labor Day, so that we could have our season. The parking lot would be, if not finished with the new parking lot, would be patched, what's there now to make it safe. So they would not be working over the summer, which obviously is a very tight spot. Really be difficult to do, construction and allow access. It'd be really almost impossible. And so what they feel that they would have left to finish after, when they restart in September, would be going through about the middle of November to about another 2.5 months of work that they would need to finish up the rest of the project. But this would allow, they expected to restore the beach area and at least level the yacht club area. So we talked about the possibility of, doing some temporary fencing that would allow the yacht club to bring back the safety boats, the boats that are used for the sail camp, and then some of their regular racer boats. And so they're open to that idea. They'd like to see a little sketch or something that to show them what we're looking at as far as that temporary fenced-in area. So there'd be some detail to work out there, but I think that they are concerned. They want to see us not lose another summer, with that South Beach area. And let's see, just make sure. So the bathrooms, just to be clear, the bathrooms probably would not be complete before the summer. So we probably would bring back porta potties, which is just fine. And then
But we're saying the shelter is going to be accessible.
the
For
shelter would
rental.
be accessible for rentals or
Use.
service, or the different things we use it for, for camp, for our sail camp, and headquarters and et cetera. So that would be accessible. The beach would be fully open, and potentially a yacht club area to store, just open fenced in area to store some, some boats there for the summer. And then they would come back and have a, again, a busy fall to finish up, but that would at least, allow us to have the beach back for the summer.
This sounds a little too good to be true.
So they think they
Makes
can get the
sense.
tank done
That's
and then
what-
cover it over again by Memorial Day?
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yes, and then we
You have to
have
jump over the thing.
a local resident expert here who could probably speak better to that, but yes, they said that they would plan to have the reservoir itself filled in and the area covered over, leveled.
Today I saw them moving a giant porta potty on a crane.
Hopefully nobody-
They put it at the same, I don't know where that was going, but it was flying through the air. That's our bathroom.
Hopefully it's theirs and not ours. Yeah.
If you don't mind, folks, I'll reach out, George, Russell, is there anything you'd like to chime in, or, because I know you're down there very, very often. You saw the flying porta potty today? Okay,
Very slowly.
what
The big
about,
question would be will the construction contractor agree to a pause without charging the North Shore a huge amount of money, and at what point would the commissioners of the North Shore water reclamation district say that's too much, but I can't believe a contract with a $20 million project will just do it by good graces.
Yeah.
Because the shut is not down that size. I do think the tank itself will be done and the sand will be dumped back over the top. But there's a heck of a lot of work that goes into making the operation.
Yeah.
And that certainly not be done by the end of May.
And they've got a
They
huge
also,
group and.
they talked about accelerating the work as much as they can, because it's been at a pretty slow pace.
Yeah,
We have some good weather on Friday. I know that they moved up this next pour a little bit, so they tell me they're working on it, they're working with IHC, which is the contractor, and trying to accelerate the construction and then do this pause,
So I'm sorry, who was communicating this to you? Was it?
Steve Waters, the operating engineer for
Okay.
North Water Reclamation District.
Gotcha.
So this is his idea, but it obviously hasn't been vetted through.
Yeah, it's not a final, and he said this is what they're working on with the contractor.
So this is as much as you got from the new timeline that he promised you, was just a hope we can do this.
Yes,
So the new timeline is, it's not gonna be finished by Memorial Day.
Right.
but they would pause it for June, July, and part of August, or part of
Yeah.
June?
They
yeah,
would like to.
June, July, and August, which I think, we all knew was not gonna be done by Memorial Day, so we were bracing for, are we not gonna be able to open until July 1, August 1, not at all, for this summer. So I think if this would work, this gives us hope that we could, and Steve seemed pretty optimistic, that they could work this out, so.
Wow.
And I told them that we need to start hiring and training staff now. I mean, some of those, the sail camp instructors have to go for specialized certification and training that's offered in Milwaukee or Chicago soon. We can't wait and, decide at the end of April, to do this, so.
Did they provide like a timeline on making this decision
Mhm.
as to whether or not?
He did not, I'll have to request that.
Well, he needs our drop dead date for, like, we have to know by this date in order to do 1, 2, 3. I mean, when is it too late? And they need to know that and know that it's a hard stop. It's not negotiable. If that doesn't happen, even if they come in April and say we can open, we still don't have the staff.
I think we said end of February, right?
We did.
We need to know for sure.
Because Jim, you've got folks that you're already hiring.
Yeah, we haven't hired any sailing instructors yet because we didn't want to do that without knowing. I have had a couple reach out, that I just reached out today after hearing this. To let them know, we'll post positions online as soon as, by the end of the week. So that way we can at least start to get those folks. It's not mandatory they have the certifications, it's ideal, but the 2 individuals that did apply were former campers. They went to the sailing program. That's usually where we get it. We get our managers and our counselors from the sailing camp. Actually, from all of our camps, we're usually, they've gone through it, so
Yeah.
they understand it.
Can we, memorialize the conversation in writing?
Mhm.
To be able just to say in, well, they're, it's a good way to do it, just to say, yeah, and I think copy, the village administrator Drew and, President, Regis, because I agree, putting those drop dead dates in there of saying, based on this conversation, again, here's the date that we have to start hiring or make sure that we have everybody on board, otherwise we can't open. I kind of, I'm very concerned, I'll use that word, because taking laborers and giving them a 2-month pause and reassigning them to another job and then trying to bring them back is
Not
that-
our problem.
Not a
Right.
business model is what I was gonna say. It's not our problem. It's really nice of them to say that, but I just can't see
Right.
how they can take that kind of financial hit.
But if you look at that, they're saying they should be able to finish by maybe December. If they had that pause in an ideal world.
Yeah.
But George, do you think a lot of the work after the tank is done is gonna require warm enough weather that they aren't working in the freeze?
I mean, do it at the end of November, they can do it.
Right, but if it were to extend into January, February, March, does it?
Outside the buildings getting painted, that's not gonna be done.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they said one of the, he was saying, one last thing would be, you know, the roadway, so that's, those plants closed in mid-November typically, so they want to be done by then.
I mean, the risk is that the contractor takes another job
Oh, I know, so that's what I'm
and it
saying,
isn't finished
but really, we don't need it again until the
by
following
Labor
day,
Day.
so.
They only start November 1st,
Yeah.
you know, and then we're pushed back again with a deadline that we may or may not make, and
Yeah, but let's memorialize it, put it in writing, you know, and see how they come back and do this, because, a construction pause is a nice thought, but even with that, okay, the accessibility of the road is still there, I mean, it's still functional, they're gonna have to patch it and everything, we still don't have lights going up, and we'll have to make do for the summer.
We have lights, we put
Oh,
a
yeah,
temporary, temporary lights.
Party lights.
That's part of the
Okay.
means.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we still have the construction fencing up along the side. Bathrooms,
We would just need some kind of a guarantee by, you know, what, February, you know, if we wanted to run the sailing camp end of February, last week of February, you know, just something that's like
definitely
for
February.
sure, yeah.
okay,
So
Yeah, right, so yesterday, I'm
Yeah,
sure,
right.
yeah.
okay. And then we'll just have to be updated because see where they go with this. Is the,
Do you think you could get them to give us an answer for the board meeting for the 26th
that would be nice.
as the deadline?
Yeah. And I think this is where, you know, our partnership with the village hopefully is, helps to have that weight behind us as well. We have our partners there to say, you gotta get this, in line, so that our expectations are appropriate.
I just have a quick, so were there any other discussions about any other concessions that could be made? So, right, so this is one option, which is great, right, deposit for 3 months. Was there any discussion about, you know, like our revenue loss and what they could possibly do to help compensate for
I
that,
mentioned that
anything
in
like that?
my email last week, that if we were going to lose another summer, we were going to lose potentially another, you know, more than $30,000 in revenue. So what they came back with is that they plan to pause and reopen the beach, so we don't have that loss in revenue.
Okay.
And we brought it up last year, but I think part of the conversation was, you know, they're spending more than, you know, $100,000 on restrooms and showers for us. So we're not getting reimbursed the $30,000 that we're losing, but we are gaining some really nice amenities.
And thank you for forwarding the letter from the yacht club.
Oh, yeah.
That they wouldn't be running full tilt. They would just be working with us for the sailing program. They're not, this doesn't sound like it would be amenable to bringing the full yacht club.
Right.
Okay.
So I was a little confused when you said they wanted a sketch. Are they a sketch of the yacht club?
Yeah, just what the area basically we're looking at to temporarily fence in for, you know, basically footprint for where this yacht club equipment would be held.
So is the yacht club going to be doing that, or is that staff?
Haven't spoken to them yet today, so that's something we think we can throw together, even if it's pretty rough, you know, using a Google Maps and, you know.
This area.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about like a chain link fence kind of thing, like a temporary.
Well,
back or something.
obviously that would be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
If we were to do temporary fencing. We've, our staff has done a lot of temporary fencing, but that's, it's lower fencing, so we'd have to look at what some of those options are to try to do that in a fairly cost effective manner for the summer.
Are you looking at just fencing for enough boats for our program or to include for the yacht club also? I mean, that's
It would be,
100 boats.
no, not for the general membership, it would be in speaking with the Commodore B. The boats, which are about 9 or 10 that are used for our program, plus the 2 safety boats. And then they wanted to bring the regular races that are constantly using it, and I believe that was something like 14 additional boats.
And would the village be involved in that process? Approving fences and,
More than likely,
Mhm.
yeah, even on a temporary basis, because that is their,
That's their land, right?
yeah.
Yes, that is village owned property, so
So the engineer needs that. That he requested that sketch.
from Northwood Water Reclamation District, yes.
So the sooner that you can add that to it, the better. So.
Yeah.
well, I think we have to, take Mr. Russell's opinion to heart that getting a contractor to agree to that might be difficult, but if we can get it,
They can,
then
If they can do it, obviously,
Yeah.
but
and it seems like a really positive.
if he has the authority to be able to speak that way.
I don't think we should hold our breaths.
well, hopefully he was enthusiastic or optimistic because maybe he's had preliminary conversations, who knows?
Yeah.
I like the glass more than half full. approach.
Yeah, or he's seen it before, or they've done it before.
Right.
Mhm.
Unless he's just pulling our leg and he knows darn well it's not gonna happen, but I don't wanna take that approach, I wanna.
Yeah. Okay. All right,
Okay.
so to summarize, John will summarize his conversation with Jeff Waters in writing. Like make sure that we include our partners with the village on that letter going back, just to say we need information by with our dates or drop dead date.
And include the sketch.
And yes, yeah, and as the yacht club. We probably do the sketch for them though. Or-
We'll work with them, we'll see if they have anybody that's an engineer, an architect, that's one of their members that wants to do this, otherwise we can, again, just use an aerial map and, put lines down and
Okay.
give a general,
Figure out how big a boat is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Work with the outcome, see what kind of space they feel that they would need.
Okay, good. All right, anything else? No, okay, we needed tonight for our update on that. Thank you very much for getting that information. Thank you, George. Anything else before the board? Nothing, okay. May I ask for a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved. Second.
And roll, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you, we are adjourned this evening.